Dr. Frumi Rachel Barr has long been a CEO coach, confidant, and mentor. The CEO's team likes to call her their corporate shrink or Dr. Y. Frumi is truly an entrepreneur, having started and run 5 entrepreneurial adventures prior to starting the Frumi Group of companies. She has a wealth of experience, having been a CEO who survived being in the trenches herself. Her own why is creating a safe environment for leaders and their teams to talk about what matters most to build profitable and sustainable organizations. Frumi guides leaders who want to ignite, accelerate, and manage growth without growing broke. Their entails having the right people in the right seats, playing up their strengths. If this sounds familiar, these are the scaling up guiding principles underpinning the 4 decisions regarding people, strategy, execution, and cash management taught by Gazelle International. Dr. Barr is the author of A CEO's Secret Weapon, How to Accelerate Success. The book was ranked top business book of 2012 by ExecRank and has a foreword by her colleague Simon Sinek, international author of best-selling Start With Why. Frumi is very proud of all her grown children. They're all off the payroll. She's frequently asked how she managed to raise them, run businesses, and never even have maternity leave, a luxury not experienced by entrepreneurs. Tell us how the Frumi Group of companies can create a safe place to talk about what matters most for the CEO and the team.
I think it's important to start with a definition of what I mean by safe.
Okay.
In order for teams to really excel together, they have to feel comfortable and trust each other. So it's creating an atmosphere where everyone respects each other, and then they can have some deep conversations and actually mine for conflict. And what I mean by that is, if a CEO has everyone just nodding their head, nothing fantastic happens, right?
Right.
But if people are comfortable to challenge thinking and have a really good debate, that's what mining for conflict feels like. And it's important to have a safe place to do that.
Great.
And that's what it's all about.
My second question is about your book, which I have right here, which is A CEO's Secret Weapon. So I want to know how your book can help CEOs. Tell us a little more about this.
So that starts really with the story of how I wrote the book. I initially planned to write a book about how to conquer loneliness at the top. And I interviewed 50 CEOs from around the world. And one of the questions I asked is, what's your biggest challenge? So when it came time to write the book, I realized I had so much more to talk about relative to how to overcome challenges. And so the book is a distillation. It's kind of a summary of all the interviews that I heard, using your why, or your purpose for existing, and the purpose of your company for existing as the engine that solves a lot of challenges. So for example, if it's a question of having difficult conversations with people and getting everybody on the same page, you always go back to your purpose and your intent for being there. And it's important for CEOs to know their own personal purpose so that they can then be in alignment with the company's purpose and attract the right people because they care.
Great.
So it's really about creating that atmosphere where everyone's motivated internally rather than someone having to motivate them.
Wonderful. I'd like to know how your book got ranked top business book of 2012 by ExecRank and how it was recommended by Simon Sinek.
Oh, well, that's a fun story. My first mentor was John Strzelecki. He wrote a book called The Why Cafe and then The Big Five for Life, which is the big 5 things you want to do in your life so that you feel like you've really lived your purpose.
Okay.
So I came back from a weekend with John Strzelecki and other coaches, and I had this wonderful idea that I would start the Why Institute, a place that would help CEOs discover their why and take the why from being personal into business. And I was having lunch with a friend of mine, and she said, well, have you heard of Simon Sinek?
Right.
And I said, no. She said, well, here's his book. It was synchronistic. She had it with her. So I read Simon's book. I followed up. I called his office. Simon would say affectionately that I stalked him. And eventually we sat down, we talked, and we developed a relationship so that when he was speaking around the world and he had people who wanted to find their why and implement it in their companies, he referred me to them.
Great.
So that's why when I wrote the book, which is in support of the why movement, we call it a movement because we want everyone to start with why, because people don't care what you do or how you do it, they really care why you do it, right?
Yes.
So I asked Simon if he would like to write the foreword, and so he did, which is wonderful. Now, I don't really know how it won an award as Best Business Book. I did not submit it to anybody, but apparently through algorithms, execrank.com found the book, read the book, and it became the #1 business book. So no one was more surprised than I was.
How to access the right people that could give you what I call huge quantum leaps into your progress.
So what you're talking about is finding the right who's. Who are the people that can help you? The first thing is that most people don't even ask for help. The second thing is then to think about those connectors, those strategic people who know a lot of people and who support whatever it is that you're doing. And you can create a strategic thinking team with those people.
Yes.
And then have them help you. People love helping other people. Nobody likes asking for help, but people really like giving help.
And I've noticed that is very much true. I have asked many times, and most of the time I get the help back. And when I don't, I get something else that supports me in some other kind of way.
Well, it goes back to your values. Time and money are very tied to values. So it's a question of prioritizing.
Okay.
And it's a question, again, of knowing your who. So if you're looking for money, for example, one of the secrets that I realized early on as an entrepreneur was you have to really define the person that you're looking for.
Okay.
You have to describe a person, not I'm looking for money, but my person is, between 35 and 40, has been the CEO of a manufacturing company and sold his business and now does this. Whatever it is, you have to really describe that person, and then people can help you because they're thinking of who you're describing and if they know anybody like that.
They can.
So if you're looking for money as a resource, for example, and you say I'm looking for money, nobody's going to tell you anybody who has money.
Right. You need to be specific on who you're looking for.
Right. So if they know anybody that fits the description I just gave you, then they'll introduce you.
Okay.
And then it's up to you to see if you can establish a relationship and get the resources that you need.
Okay, great. And then as far as the time, it's also a matter, I'm assuming,
of priorities,
right?
One of the secrets that we've learned through the Gazelle system, there was a management consultant at the turn of the last century by the name of Ivy Lee. And he went into Charles Schwab, who was trying to improve his time management and become more efficient. And Ivy suggested a few things to him and it worked. And so he said, could you do this for my executives? Ivy said, you know what, give me 10, 15 minutes with your executives and I'll make sure that they become more efficient. So Charles Schwab said, gave him the time and said, what are you going to charge me for that? He said, don't worry about that now, let's talk after we do this work. So he met with the executives, spent 10 minutes only with them, and asked them to write 6 priorities at the end of every day. So when they would start the next day, they'd start on number 1, then go to number 2, and if they didn't complete all 6, well, then they would put them on the list for the next day. He came back, Charles Schwab evaluated everything that he did and ended up sending him a check for $35,000. Now that might not sound like a lot now, but it was a time when people earned $2 a day. So you can see how many magnitudes of excitement that caused.
Yes.
And that's a simple way, every day just looking the night before, especially at 5 o'clock, It's the best time to say I've done everything I wanted to do today, or oh my goodness, I forgot these 3 things. I have to do them first thing in the morning. If you're not intentional about that, every day just goes by.
My next question is how to attain media exposure.
That's a big mystery for most people, isn't it? So I think the way is to have valuable content on your website, to write blogs that tie into what you're passionate about, what you want your who's, your own who's, those clients you're trying to get, to align with what you're writing about. And then, I think the way it works now is with SEO and all those things, it really will attract people. Also, I think you have to spend a lot of choose your social media properly.
Okay.
So in my experience, Twitter, the average income of a person who is on Twitter is in the 30 to 40,000 range. Facebook, 60,000 range, and LinkedIn is over 100,000. So I think you should spend your time where your people are.
Is there anything else that you would like to add for the interview and our viewers?
Well, as my hero Simon Sinek would say, people don't care what you do or how you do it, they really care why you do it. So I really encourage people to discover their own purpose, make sure it's in alignment with their business purpose so that they can really be happy. And if it's a struggle to find your why, then live every day on purpose with intention, and then your why will show up.
Great, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for those last words and for your time and consideration.
Such a pleasure.